we're just going to go ahead and we're going to chit chat. We're going to peel some layers of the wonderful, oh my gosh, chunks of nuggets and gifts from what I've read so far. I'm going to be very transparent, just like Jeremy. It's been an explosion of calendars and schedules of travel on this side. So I couldn't just shut the world and read the Bonnie Low-Kramen book, but I have a few lists of items that I definitely wanted to lift up and have a chat about. Are we game? We're gonna rock on.
Totally game and ready to rock on. I mean, I'm seeing the faces, so many friends here, so many familiar faces. I think it tells me that I've been around for a really long time. So, this book, Staff Matters, it has been a labor of love for 7 years. Both you and Jeremy have copies. I saw Jeremy a week or so ago in Orlando. So before we begin, Rowe, may I just thank Jeremy Burroughs just once again, your support of me and the book and our work together in the collaboration is living proof, Jeremy, of what you preach, as it were. The idea that the coming together of assistants is so much more powerful than assistants as individuals. So, I thank you for that. Thank you for your ongoing support, which has been extraordinary, and I appreciate it so much.
You're welcome, Bonnie. My pleasure.
I second the motion, because just look at all this, look at the people in this community, right? And every week when we gather, there's always this engagement of like-mindedness and uniqueness that is welcome. Yeah. So, Bonnie, the ultimate new workplace. That could be taken into so many directions. I myself have my ideas of what's an ultimate workplace. So I'd like to have you break it down for us. What is the ultimate new workplace? When you started on this journey 7 years ago, what was percolating?
Yeah, there was a time before the pandemic that I was kicking myself that I wasn't done with the book. I remember, and then that tsunami of an event happened in March of 2020, and I had all this material for the new book, which had come out of a need. Many of you know I travel a lot. I worked with Olympia Dukakis for 25 years and then resigned from that work in order to speak and teach around the world because I kept getting asked to speak in front of groups about what it takes to be an ultimate assistant. And in that process, I spoke with assistants everywhere. And as part of Be the Ultimate Assistant, I have one-on-one conversations with assistants. But in the course of the travel, I was talking with leaders and HR professionals and recruiters and business school professors and business school students. So I started hearing the same stories over and over and over again. It didn't matter whether I was in the United States or England or Dubai or South Africa, that the issues, the problems that were slowing assistants down and stopping you dead in your tracks were universal. They had to do with workplace bullying and sexual harassment and not being paid properly and feeling disrespected in your role, being misunderstood in your role. And that was the birth of just deciding that I had to write this down. You can't see behind me, but I have a lot of leadership and management books in my collection, and I suspect you all do as well. Well, most of the books I own, and no offense meant, Jeremy, but most of those leadership management books are written by men. And in addition, those leadership management books are written by leaders about leaders. They're not really written about the staff, the people who they talk about, but they're not really in the book. And I was frustrated by that. And I certainly was very frustrated by the lack of representation of women in those leadership management books. And I was troubled by the lack of diversity in those books. that if the subject of racism and discrimination were touched on at all about the workplace, it was done in a very cursory way. And you'll notice this book is 400 pages. It is 21 chapters and 400 pages, because as I kept writing, I kept understanding that what was needed, as I did in my first book, was to get the stories straight from the people living it. So there are actual stories in your words from assistants, leaders, HR, recruiters, business school professors. You asked me what an ultimate workplace is. First book is Be the Ultimate Assistant. So we talk about what it means to be an ultimate assistant. And my view of what an ultimate workplace is has to do with staff who feel respected and valued for your unique contribution that you were hired to do in the first place, that you are paid properly, fairly, and as I travel, there's far too many assistants who are still pitifully underpaid. And then lastly, an ultimate workplace, and not necessarily lastly, but very important, is the need for staff to be invested in, to be encouraged and supported to keep growing and learning and evolving. And that means investment in training dollars, that kind of thing. So that's a real start. In each chapter of the book, most of them have one-word titles. Chapter 1 is called Empathy. That's a contributing factor to the ultimate workplace. There's another one, there's one literally called Sex, which is about gender in the workplace. It's one of the larger chapters, and it's about the ways in which, the very real ways in which women experience the workplace differently than men, and the other genders as well, members of the LGBTQIA communities as well. I bit off a lot in this book.
Yeah.
I did.
No, and you're starting us off. My thoughts, my head is bobbing up and down because, oh my gosh, I'm agreeing and I want to dig even further. But you also said that we also have to mention even age in a work environment, depending on where we belong and where we sit and what decade, we receive things differently and we are treated differently sometimes. In as much as
100%.
we try to ignore those little nuances, but my goodness, I am coming up to 30 years too.
The age range in our workplace in 2023 has never been as broad as it is right now. We have 20-somethings working alongside 80-somethings. And the virtual world has made that even more true. So, of course, there are going to be conflicts and differences. And ageism is certainly a thing in the world. I'm happy to report from where I sit, that is not as much an issue in the assistant world, in the administrative professional world, as it is in other businesses. But that's not true across the board. Actually, what matters more, from the recruiters who call me weekly, it's about the skills assistants bring to the table. And we talk about that in the book. And, there are trends happening right now. The newest trend is that college degrees are considered preferred rather than required. That's been a very big sea change that happened as a result of the pandemic and the Great Resignation. There has been so much upheaval. So the happy news is that the last 3 years, I had the chance to update the book to bring it up to the minute in regards to what's happening right now.
And you said earlier, there's a lot, right? And it can be daunting. And for us executive assistants or someone who sits in the support staff, we frequently can see through the fence. So if we're talking about bumping into something, we see what's on the opposite side of the fence. We help build that fence, but sometimes the gate doesn't open for us to pass through or get over the fence.
Yeah.
And I want for you to share with us, how do we, in the roles we play, and I don't want to forget the place and the position the executive assistants have, and I don't mean that in a derogatory way. I personally know the ecosystem I perform and I play a part in. How do I get to that fence and a gate is closed? What do you feel like is the most efficient and most respectable and most valid way that the people on the other side of the fence will pay attention and say,
Yeah.
here,
Oof.
come on in? Because sometimes our representation gets skewed and the door shuts or it's misrepresented. And in your many conversations with people of all different statuses and statures,
Right.
please, yeah.
Well, this past summer, some of you might have read my article in Harvard Business Review called "Is Executive Assistant the Right Career for You?" And I decided to zero in on the perception issue. Part of the issue that you're raising, Rowe, is the idea that leadership, including HR, their perception of what the administrative professional role is does not match what you are actually doing. And worldwide, assistants of the world, one of their biggest complaints is that leaders have no idea what you do. They don't understand it. And so the move is, here it is. My strongest suggestion, because I see an opportunity. We've got a very volatile workplace still right now, and I see a golden opportunity for each and every one of you if you take the risk to seize it. And it begins with writing your own detailed, accurate, up to the minute job description so that you have clarity on what you do. And therefore, when you end up having your meeting with HR and leaders and you hand this beautifully formatted, easy to read document, they get to, perhaps even for the first time, really grasp what it is you do and what you're capable of. Leaders have shared with me that in this aftermath of the pandemic, that they have been thrown very hard for a loop. There is such a need for new structures in HR and in the administrative staff. So to get over that fence you're talking about, Rowe, it's about helping our leaders understand what it is you do and what it is you're capable of. Many assistants are taking a fresh look at the operation, at the organization, and seeing the gaps. Many of you have heard me talk about this before, but it's real. Some of you are getting, love tech. And so you're getting involved with lunch and learns and teaching others technology. That helps leverage your role and get you over the fence. Some of you are really compelled by disaster plans and like, how are we going to be ready for the next crisis? So you're putting your hand up and volunteering for that team to get involved with that. Some of you sit in on hiring, on interviews, and help to hire new assistants and new executives. Some of you in the C-suite, get to have your seat at the table. Here's the thing, that if you have an interest, a passion, an aptitude, real talent, they're not mind readers either. And so we need to get over the fence by revealing what's in it for them if they let you over that fence, if they invite you over that fence to have your seat at the table. What I see globally is that leaders were not skilled at fully leveraging the administrative staff before the pandemic. And now in the remote virtual hybrid world, they really don't know how to do this. And that's why you were seeing the, chiefs of staff emerging. Why? Because there needs to be somebody wrangling all of the
Buffering.
staff. So it could be that if you're a person who really enjoys managing, supervising, organizing staff, not everybody has that skill. You can raise your hand and apply for those positions and have a conversation with HR, with your leaders, hopefully someone who has an evolved mindset, who can look beyond box that they automatically put assistants in. I
Mhm.
hope that's helpful, Rowe.
Yes, yes. And I think we all share a little bit of all those little experiences that you're hitting with your points. And at some given time in our career, or sometimes even within the same company, but with a different executive as we shift around. As you know, Bonnie, not all executives are created equal. Not all workplaces are created
No.
equal. And when you said most of the time, they don't even understand exactly what the executive
Right.
assistant's needs are,
Yeah.
it really can, it sometimes really does debilitate our ability to want to have the conversation because we feel
Well,
like
yeah.
we're talking different languages and we're also not apples to apples comparisons, right? I mean, I myself have
No,
a hard time with
you'll
that.
you'll be interested in knowing that I know I need to get in front of HR people. So I am speaking at a conference, the talent conference for
Mm.
SHRM, the Society of Human Resource Managers in Orlando in April. And I pitched them the idea that the title is, because I know I'm going to have a room of HR people. And so the subject is leveraging the golden resource that is your administrative staff. They loved the idea. And the programming people for the conference came to me and they said, Bonnie, this is a really great idea that we've never done before. We've
Hmm.
never done it. So these folks are going to be really getting an earful down there. I'm happy about that.
Can I be a fly on the wall? I'd like to have a front row seat when they get that earful from Bonnie.
Well, I mean, it's 2023. How can you not think this way? But I have my eye on the time. In the introduction of the book is a very important story. And some of you might have heard me say it before, but I'm going to make it very brief. And that is, I had an aha moment that blew me away in 2012 when I read an article in Harvard Business Review called "We Wait Too Long to Train Our Leaders." And it was a poll that was done of 70,000 leaders around the world. And they figured out the average age that a leader gets their very first training in managing people. And I thought, well, that would be very interesting. And at the time in 2012, the age was 42. And that explained so much, because when I meet you all, many of you tell me you don't feel well managed. You don't feel like your leaders really understand how to get the best out of people. Newsflash, intimidating people, bullying them, demoralizing them is not the way, ladies and gentlemen. But somehow many leaders get that message that that's a really effective way to do that. The poll was done again in 2021 during the pandemic, and the average age went up to age 46. You don't have to be sitting there being a math major to figure out that most leaders are out of school more than 20 years before they get their first training in managing people. So if you're sitting there frustrated about that, there's a good reason why, that it's your leaders have not had the education, the training to teach them that in business school. I was like, what's going on? Why are they not teaching this in business school? And business school is very busy teaching international finance and accounting and what they teach it, the black and white subjects of business school, and they're not teaching the soft skills of relationship, of people. And therein lies a main premise of the book, is that staff needs to be aware. So there's a lack of training among leaders. There's certainly a lack of training among HR. And we know as an assistant community that we've been fighting hard to get professional development. And many of you on the call know that it's only really been in the last 10 years that there's been anything, with, choices. How about that?
Well, Bonnie, even anyone who pays attention or even casually skims LinkedIn is aware of the state of our companies, cultures, employees, right? Many of today's workplaces are in dire need of transformation.
Yes.
And they should
Yes.
fully engage the best resources that the workplaces rely on, the staff. So those are the best
The
resources.
people already on the payroll.
Exactly.
Who the leaders, so on the back of the book, I say, you've heard this, that, the world refers to you, the staff, as the backbone of the company and the right arms to your managers, and you're the eyes and you're the ears and you're the lifeblood and you're the back. How many body parts can you be? And yet, being so important, why then is there so much broken in the workplace? There is absolutely a disconnect. And frankly, I see the administrative staff as being in a key seat to affect change, to make your case to get over the fence. I think now's the time. I have never seen a time where leaders or HR have been more receptive to
Mhm.
new ideas, mainly because they are struggling and scrambling themselves.
I definitely agree. I say this all the time. We are at that golden age when we can take control of our profession, our career, and we
Mhm.
no longer have to hand it to someone else who doesn't understand one bit about what it is that makes us
Yeah.
better or even gives us mojo. I mean,
In the chat, I see Kristen she wrote nervous system. We're the nervous system
that's right.
of an organization. And indeed you are, and you're doing it in a remote way. And you have done it in large part in spite of the lack of support, as opposed to because you've been supported in any big way. Chapter 4 is called Ask First. Far too many leaders are making decisions about you, about things that directly impact you, and they're not asking you. They're not asking. And,
Yep.
and we need a recalibration about who you are and what you are capable of. Profession is still 95 to 97% female. I love seeing male faces and male names. Adam's here and Jeremy's here, but still we are in a profession that's the majority of females. And I believe that has contributed to where we are right now, because women in large numbers are not very fast to be assertive and to push the issue to get us over the fence. But my hope is that Staff Matters can be a tool for each and every one of you, a tool to help you ignite those conversations that will trigger a real revelation about, well, okay, where are we? Here are the challenges, and what do we do about them? What do we do about them now?
Identifying is part of the solution. We can't solve anything we're not aware of. And I know we're both very cognizant of time. I want to be able to have people ask you questions. Maybe that's going to happen, maybe not. But I want to end on something you said. You say, and this resonates with me, it's even in my tagline, we all can play a part in making things better for ourselves. We can do better. And Bonnie, I have something that I always say, but we have to decide that we deserve better.
Yeah.
So I'm going to add on the whole, we have to decide that we deserve better because we can't hand it over to someone else. So I'm going to end with that comment, and I'll open it back up to you, Bonnie, and to Jeremy, and ask, is there anything that someone would like to say or share out or ask Bonnie?
I'm checking the chat. Jeremy.
I was going to say, I just want to say thank you, Bonnie, for taking time out of your busy launch week to join our group today, and thank you, Rowe, for facilitating. I know we're about out of time, but
it wasn't enough.
I know
30 minutes, too short.
I know. So anyway, definitely check out Bonnie's book on Amazon and leave a review if you enjoy it.
Yeah.
And every review helps. And we'll
I thank you, Jeremy, so much for this. Let me, if I may, I just want to leave you with the idea that I talk about it, be the ultimate assistant all the time. And that is that each and every one of you can believe, if you choose, that you're the CEO of You Incorporated. I know you work for a company, but you also are a business. You have said, yes, I will work for this company. You receive a paycheck. You are the CEO of you. And if the pandemic showed us anything, it's that life can be short and that things can change very fast. So my goal with Staff Matters is to put the control of your career, your life squarely back in your hands so that you have an understanding about what's happening for all the other groups and hearing their stories. And through empathy, we really can make the bridge. We happen to have a few seats left for Be the Ultimate Assistant in New York on April 19, 2021. If any of you are interested, you can contact me, Bonnie at bonnielowkramen.com. And just like they say in The Godfather, I'd love to make you an offer you can't refuse. I'd love to have you there. If you want to be there, we'd love to have you. So oh my gosh, one of your members is saying that her copy of the book is on the way to Nigeria. The
Awesome.
magic of Amazon, right, Jeremy? It's just crazy that it's a new day. It's a very exciting new time in this workplace. And I feel an urgency for all of us to act now, because the decisions that leaders are making now are going to be impacting the next decade. So we need to have our voice. There are too many assistants being left out of and on the other side of the fence. And that's not okay with me. And my hope is it's not okay for you, because we need to do it not only for ourselves, but for our kids and for those assistants coming through the pipeline who are going to be in our chairs before long. So thank you for caring to take a look at this.
Awesome. Well said, Bonnie. Thanks again. Thank you, Rowe. Thank you, everyone. Happy Wednesday. Have a great rest of your evening and week. And we'll see you next week, same time, same channel.
Thank you again,
everyone.
Jeremy and Rowe. Bye, everyone.
Safe travels,
Great to
Bonnie.
see you. Thank you.